ABTV. You're watching ABTV.
Australian Roundtable Podcast started a couple months ago at the end of 2014, just as an independent discussion panel for like-minded people to gather and discuss news and affairs that weren't being reported by the mainstream establishment. The mainstream media is the arm of the government. It does serve agendas. People know that, they're taught that, they're trained that, I was trained that. But they don't understand that the mainstream media can create the public opinion to manipulate.
The biggest difference between the real alternative media and the mainstream media, and even the so-called alternative media, is they're not providing the work there for you to go and do the research for yourself. They're still telling you what to believe. And in my experience, any time that someone tells you what to believe and doesn't give you reasons why, they're probably lying to you. And I like to think that on our show we do the complete opposite. We say, well, hold on, don't believe us. This is just our opinions. Here's why we believe it. You do your own research.
Aussie Beach TV.
You're watching me on Aussie Beach TV.
Okay, so I'm sure you guys have heard that there is a new anti-terrorist law. They've just been introduced that empower the government to jail whistleblowers and journalists for leaking sensitive information to the public. So what is your thought on that one?
Yeah, well, I did an article at tottnews.com entailing these legislative bills, all three of them that have come out. Well, you know, the third one's still being debated, the Metadata Retention Act. But this was one of the scariest laws I had seen, and I spoke on the episode Freedom versus Footy for Aussie Beach TV about these laws and went into detail about them. But what it entails is if ASIO declares something as a special intelligence operation, an SIO, and you are reporting that, so for example national security reporting could be diminished because of that, but if you're caught reporting something like this, whistleblowers, journalists, even people that put it on Facebook or share links on Facebook can face up to 10 years in jail, which you could put that sort of law in any tyrant throughout history in their laws, and that would fit in nicely, because what we're talking about here is ASIO, controlled and determined by themselves through their internal policies, stating that whatever they want is a special intelligence operation, and then if it gets reported on, then you can face 10 years in jail. Well, how did we find out about the bug in the Indonesian, minister's office? Because that was leaked. That was leaked, and that was reported through national security, through national security journalists. Under these laws, that would be classified as an SIO. ASIO can classify anything as an SIO, and where does that lead? Well, if you know the government, if you know ASIO, if you know the agendas that they serve, you can see that anything. If we have a complete blackout and we're not allowed to report on what they call SIOs, then that just leaves them to go rampant. And that didn't even entail the whole bill. There were second trances that came out where they can come into your house and search your house and not tell you for 6 months. There's all of these legislative pieces that I've documented in the past, which should make the average citizen just completely sick to their stomach, because it's outrageous.
And you did do a lot of research on that, Ethan, so can I get you to confirm for me that as we stand right now, if someone's watching this in Australia today, here are the facts as they stand right now after those two pieces of legislation that were passed late last year. Your passport could be cancelled right now, and you wouldn't even know until you go to fly, because they can cancel your passport without telling you for up to 12 months. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
If you're at work one day, you might be listening to this as a podcast on the way to work one day, they could be in your house right now, in plain clothes, without a warrant that they have to issue to you, up until 12 months. That is to say that because those bills passed a few months ago, they might have been in your house last week and you won't know for another 11 months. And when they were in your house, they would have done it in plain clothes. Those are the laws as we sit here in Australia today. Now, I know that sounds crazy. How could this be the case? I should know about this by now, right? Well, you don't know about it, because why would the mainstream media focus on these things when there's a good chance that when you find out about this, you'll get angry about it? That's what the news is there to do. The news is there to get you angry at all of the government's enemies, not at the government, which is why when you listen to shows like ours, we spend half an hour sometimes talking about these matters, the pieces of legislation that passed, the events that happened leading up to that legislation passing, which had many question marks over them. We can see what's going on. Anyone can see what's going on if they look at it. Unfortunately, right now, Dana, many people look at the TV and they trust the TV to tell them the truth. And I don't blame them for that, because, hey, the TV looks, they've got smart-looking people sitting there. beautiful people who seem wise, those people are just reading from a teleprompter. Those people aren't doing their own research. They're actors. They're very much literally actors. In the same way that you might go to acting school so you can become a role player, well, a news presenter is an actor. They're just a different type. Their job is to sit there, look handsome or to look beautiful, to read out green words on a piece of glass and make you believe that they're there to help you. Well, if they were there to help you, how come you don't know that right now in Australia, as Ethan's confirmed, that you can confirm for yourself if you do the research, that you can have your passport cancelled and not know for up to 12 months, that you can have a person come into your house in plain clothes without a warrant, without you knowing about it, for up to 12 months. You can be put in jail for leaking things that the government gets to decide that you're not allowed to leak. If the news was there to help you, how come you have to hear all that from us, independent citizen journalists? Why aren't you hearing that from 6pm News?
Totally agree with that. I would have to say also the fact that, do you think the government is maybe getting a little bit scared because people are coming together and people are figuring things out, and we are getting more information, and with shows like Aussie Beach TV, shows like yours, we can do something about it, and this is why they're passing those laws?
Absolutely. Well, as Hillary Clinton said, they're losing the information war. And whether you want to believe that or not, I can say from personal experience in Australian alternative media that over the last even just 2 years, as recently as that, the momentum that we have built has never been anything like this, because more and more people, as they ramp up, as they try to pass these laws through sloppily, as they try to pull off all these events, people are waking up and they're starting to question, because more and more people are tuning in, and then that spreads like wildfire. It's a domino effect. You know, if you're sitting at home and you communicate with your family about it, you know what I mean? You question the news while you're sitting there with your family. It spreads to more and more people. So more and more people begin to question. And that's why they are passing these laws so fast, because now, under the second piece of legislation, you can be arrested for your ideals and beliefs, which is completely ridiculous, because they're going to put that under the guise of terrorism. And how that's going to work is anything that questions the establishment is going to be like this, because here in Queensland, the definition of terrorism, that you can be charged for terrorism, the Queensland Police have said, is something along the lines of you incite paranoia or fear into the public. Now, that can be twisted and misconstructed, and that can be skewed in so many ways that it can then be flipped on you, and it then terrorism can come under you. David Cameron, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, came out of the United Nations and said that they need to crack down on non-violent extremism, because, and he said this himself, he said people that question 9/11, people that question the 7/7 bombings, you know, people that think that Muslims are radicalised all around the world to serve an agenda, people that think these things, which is their opinion. It's freedom of speech to think these. If you have evidence behind it, it doesn't even matter. It's your opinion to think these. He said that they fall under the same guise as these ideals that these ISIS terrorists have. It's non-violent extremism. Now, how is that non-violent? How is that related at all to these so-called violent extremist groups? Because it's an extremist thought that the government don't want you to have, and that's why they're so quick to pass these legislations and crack down.
And can I say, tying into Dana's question about are they getting scared that more people are getting this information? Well, clearly that's the case. Once upon a time, if you said that, what happened on 9/11 and what was reported in the 9/11 Commission report, if you said that, you would be derided as a lunatic or as a conspiracy theorist. Well, all around the world, more and more people are looking back 12 years later and going, hold on, the footage kind of looked legitimate at the time, doesn't look legitimate anymore. More people are looking back and going, what happened on 7/7 in London? Doesn't look legitimate. More people are even looking at the Sydney siege now and saying, I'm happy to state openly, I don't believe what I was told about the Sydney siege. And the numbers are growing. So even though I'm sure some people who watch this on YouTube at Aussie Beach TV might be saying, well, the fact that John is even bringing this up does sound a bit controversial. Sure, to a lot of people it still will. To the people who are still plugged into the TV, it will sound controversial. But what you have to understand is that all around the world, and especially in countries like ours, people are openly expressing their concerns about the information that's being presented to them. And they're saying, I don't believe this anymore. So to answer your question directly, yeah, I do think that the politicians and the people who control the politicians are getting a little bit scared. If I were them, I would be getting scared too. Because thanks to the internet, all around the world now, people who once upon a time would have watched the TV and just gone, oh, it doesn't look legit, who cares? Now they've got a chance to get on the net and go, hey, did you see that news story? didn't seem legit, and someone will come back and go, yeah, I'm pretty confident it's not legit because of A, B and C. All of a sudden people start collaborating, and that's exactly what they don't want, Dana. They don't want us collaborating. They want us sitting in our lounge rooms, watching the television, believing what they tell us to believe, and being atomised. But because of the internet now, we're getting together, we're forming a mass. So yeah, they're scared, yeah, they should be scared, and for every single person who listens to this and starts their own podcast, there's another reason for them to be scared.
True.
And just to add a final thought to that, and that's where the most scariest part of the first legislation has come in, because it before then ASIO had a limit to the number of caps that they could have on a warrant. Now that has gone under a single warrant. You can have a cap on as many devices as you want. That was usually 5 devices. So if you had a warrant on a home, you could have it on the phone, you could have it on all of these mediums in the home as long as it went to 5. Now it's uncapped, and it goes, it can go under monitoring a computer network. They've changed the definition in the legislation of a computer network to include just personal computers. So if you have a cap on that, what people that have raised in the Senate have said is that, does this mean that you can have a single warrant to monitor the entire internet essentially? If the caps are unlimited and you can change what a computer network is and you can monitor an entire computer network, does this mean that you can cap the entire internet and monitor it? And George Brandis, our Attorney General, responded, yes, that could be. It won't be done. You know, trust us, it won't be done. But that's exactly what can be done. And it's in the legislation there. If you go to tottnews.com, you can read the articles, you can source the legislation itself. But going back to what Jono said about the internet, that's why they're scared. And that's why they're wanting to monitor the entire internet.
Yeah. So really just don't believe everything that you say on you hear on TV, like Johnny said. Don't believe us. Do your own research and find out for yourself and see for your own eyes what you find, not just what someone tells you.
That's right. Unplug yourself from the matrix and think for yourself. Have critical thought and make your own decisions, not what people tell you to think.
So the information is obviously very, very limited. It's very monitored. I'm not sure about Australia, but in America, a bill was passed that 5% of anything passed through the media had to be factual. 5%. That means 95%, excuse my French, is absolute bullshit. It's fake.
You know what's interesting about that? Sorry to interrupt you there, Dana. What's interesting about that is there's this thing called the Smith-Mundt Act in the United States. And I don't have my notes in front of me, so I'm just going off the top of my head here. But once upon a time, it was illegal for the United States Defense Department and other agencies to spread propaganda in their own countries. They're allowed to do it in other countries. Say if they wanted to overthrow a Chilean dictator or what have you, they could spread propaganda in that country, but it wasn't allowed to make its way back to America. Well, just a couple of years ago, they repealed that law, so now it is perfectly legal for the United States State Department, CIA, NSA, all these other spaghetti alphabet organizations. It's perfectly legal for them to spread outright propaganda to their own people. Now, the question that people have to ask themselves is, if it is legal for them to do that, why wouldn't they do that?
It's a good question, actually. Can you comment on anything?
Well, they obviously have an agenda to serve, and if you follow that agenda and you follow the rabbit hole, you'll see what agendas they have to serve. And it resonates back here at home as well. In Australia, they added amendments to legislation to say that they can't be prosecuted for lying in Parliament. You know what I mean? If they want to lie as a representative of the country, if they lie outside of Parliament, they can be held accountable. But inside of the Parliament, they can lie and not be held accountable for it. And I think that's something that should make every Australian sick to their stomach.
Well, that makes me sick.
Well, can I say, one of the reasons why I became aware of the fact that the media is lying to us is I was a young boy when the Iraq War 2003 took place. And I was young enough to still read newspapers and believe they were real. So I'd been convinced that there was this evil dictator in the Middle East who had these weapons that could kill us at any moment, that he was killing his own people, that our troops should go and fight him. Now, I was too young to pay taxes or vote at the time. But the point is, I believed all of that. Then when it turned out that that was all a huge lie, the government and the media had worked together to fool people like me into believing this stuff, I thought to myself, I'm not going to trust those people again. And what amazes me is how many people can be lied to on a massive scale like that, and then come back and sit down and watch the TV like nothing happened. When else in your life would you accept somebody telling you a lie of that magnitude and ever trusting another word that ever came out of their mouth? And what we weren't told about the 2003 Iraq War, or at least what I didn't know, I wasn't taught at school, was that it was a second war in Iraq. There was a thing called the Gulf War back in 1991. And what's fascinating about that is that they sent twice as many troops in 91 because back then Saddam had a strong army. Why did Saddam have a strong army back in 1991? Well, because the Americans had been funding him during the Iraq-Iran War during the 1980s. Now, these are all facts that anyone can verify for themselves, but very few people do. And is the news ever going to tell you about that? Of course not. So for me, I was lied to once by the media, and I find myself in the genuine alternative media trying to get the truth out there. My question to people is, if you still believe that the media is telling you the truth, what would they have to lie to you about and be proven to have lied to you about before you would accept that you can't trust them any longer? I'll throw that one to you there, Ethan.
It seems like it'd have to be something of worldly magnitudes, because I'm the same. I think that should have made anyone sick to their stomach. And now it's happening again. We're in Iraq again for the third time. Iraq 3.0, and as opposed to here in Brisbane, there was thousands in the street marching. Now there was no one in the streets marching. It seems like the control, the deception, the programming of the people in their subconscious has gotten more and more intense, with more bulletins, with more propaganda, with more events to distract people from the real issues at hand. It seems like it's getting worse and worse, Jono, and if something like Iraq can't stop them, who knows what will.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. I think what's happening is there's more polarization happening. So the dumb people are getting dumber and more distracted, but the awake people are getting better at collaborating and working together. And this is why I make the point to people. And there was an article, I think it was the Washington Times, in the blogs in the Washington Times, where a researcher had gone back and looked at times that the people had either overthrown or changed their government. What did they have to do to do it? And they found that all it took was 3.5% of people who knew what was really going on working together to change their government for the better. Now round that up to 5% for argument's sake. What's 5% of 25 million people? I think it's 1.25 million people. I just put myself on the spot there. I think it's rough. Now that is a lot of people, sure. But where do you start? You know, many drops fill the bucket. The first drop will be there, Aussie Beach TV. Then you've got the second drop, Mick Raven down there in Sydney. There's actually a bunch of people doing work like this all around Australia, and more people are coming on board. And that 4.5% or whatever it is might seem like a big amount at the moment, but it only seems like that because we haven't got there yet. It's always going to seem like a big amount until we get there. What you're going to find is it's going to snowball. So if I'll come back to my central point once again, we're doing this work, we give up our Sundays to do this for free. We don't have a donate button, at least I don't have a donate button on my page even, but we don't ask for money to do this. Old mate over there behind the camera, Jack Russell, Aussie Beach TV. Look, I don't know the finances of his business, but I imagine he didn't get into this for the money. He got into this for the truth. And the more people who do this, the quicker it's all going to take off, Ethan.
Absolutely, and that comes back to the central point of everyone out there, you know, get involved. You know, if you've got something that you're passionate about, if you care about free humanity, if you care about your children, you care about your family, you know, this is the most important time to join in this information war.
If you've never heard of the Australian Roundtable Podcast and you've just heard of us through the Aussie Beach TV, please let me tell you that this is the kind of guy that we like to have on the show, Jack Russell over here, to try and lighten the mood, because hey, who wants to listen to 90 minutes of us telling you that the government's gotten too strong? You don't hear that. So we normally throw more jokes and laughter in there, but I guess today we've had an opportunity with you here, Dana, to have a proper discussion about what's going on, Ethan, and we probably haven't been our usual jocular selves. But the point I'm trying to make here is, if you like Jack Russell's work, you're not going to find any of the beautiful babes with their bikinis on our show, but what you will find is plenty of factual information, Ethan.
Correct.
Chunk-a-dingo.
Factual information.
That's factual.
Factual information is sexy, let me tell you right now.
Bloody
That
hell,
didn't go
mate.
off as I planned, and that wasn't very funny, was it?
I just wanted to come in and say it's really great to meet you guys, and I listen to you all the time on the podcast, and I think it's great, and I think you've got great heads for radio. That's for sure. What's going on here with the fungus,
They're not that
boys? What's going on with the fungus?
Jack, can I say, a lot of people watching this now will be our viewers who've come across Aussie Beach TV to check you out. Since we've got you here, sitting next to the lovely Dana, do you want to give some of our listeners who aren't familiar with Aussie Beach TV an idea of what you do with your show?
Well, mate, Aussie Beach TV, you know, I was just a little bit sick of the television set, and I wanted to meet girls. So I thought I'd just sort of put the two together and do my own media reporting with hot chicks. Chunk-a-dingo, you're hot. Isn't she hot? This is Dana. I found her on a fitness website.
Dejna James, what's up?
I found her on a fitness website, mate, on a bus, and I got off that bus, I was just dripping in sweat. I had to phone her and call her up and book her for a show, mate.
Now, Jack, you've made Dana blush, so she's lost her spot there on the question, so I'll throw the next question to you, mate. You've been listening to us jibber jabber for 30 minutes. You've interviewed a lot of interesting people, Jack Russell. What do you think is the most important topic that people like us and people like yourself can get through to the people via YouTube and other means? What's the biggest, most important topic, do you think?
Jet fuel.
Chip.
Jet fuel, mate. Jet fuel doesn't melt steel beams, mate. That's what woke me up, mate. I watched 9/11, mate. I saw those buildings come down on live TV. Yeah. I put down my joint straight away. And I said, oh my God, Chuck-a-dingo, what's going on? The world's gone to shit. So so from then I realised, hang on a minute, this was just like watching one big whole movie. So I looked back at it over and over and over and over, and then it dawned on me: the mainstream media is full of shit.
Full of shit.
I just pulled it all apart in one go, and I said, I can do better. And I can do it with pretty girls, mate. You watch me go. So I went out and I got myself a little Sony Handycam, mate. And after doing a few fun videos at home with a few girls, they're on my other YouTube channel. You can check them out, right? I think they're R-rated, all right? You got to sign in over 18. Yeah, anyhow, so we moved on from there and we started filming some current affairs and a little bit of fun, some bikini sports and that. And what do you know? We reached out to your typical Aussie bogan just like me at home, and mate, they're watching, they're paying attention, they're focusing on the boobies, and they're listening to these guys talk a little bit of truth, mate. We talked to some amazing people from all around Australia, from all around the world. They love our show. We got beautiful girls. Jack-a-dingo.
Jack-a-dingo.
I was so excited I came in here today. You guys should have had a shave. I shaved my nipples for this. Oh, mate, I love it. Citizen media, it's the way to go, folks, and you should really tune into these blokes. I know, they got ugly heads and all, but they got good things to say, mate. All right? Tune in. Australian Roundtable Podcast, mate, every Sunday afternoon on YouTube. It live streams. You can get on the chat. Yeah, mate, you can watch our show on the other screen. Put it up in the corner there and focus on the boobies.
I will say thank you so much to Jack Russell for putting this together. He's doing fantastic work. Make sure you support Aussie Beach TV. I'm Jono from the Australian Roundtable Podcast, and you're watching me on Aussie Beach TV.
Aussie Beach TV. You're watching Aussie Beach TV. You're watching